Do you think you were treated fairly?
Nobody ever even asked. Even when they prosecuted me for perjury, I was never talked to by an investigator or anybody else. Nobody in the state of California asked me one question about, let alone the DA's office.
Had you forgotten about that tape?
I completely forgot. Who would care about something that was a fictional screenplay?
Yeah.
But that being said, it doesn't take away from words that are hurtful to people, and I recognize that, and I made my apologies. But in this situation, we need to really see Sergeant Crowley. The man is in a black and white, in uniform. He hears a call come out. He does what every cop's supposed to do, unless people don't want him to arrive at their house when 911 is called. But he does, and he needs to do certain things before he can leave, because he can't leave until he is satisfied a crime has not occurred or one is not in progress. Professor Gates hindered that possibility for him to discover that, even when Sergeant Crowley said, I'm going to leave, the Harvard police are here. Still, Professor Gates pursued this, and he challenged him. He assumed he was a racist solely because he was white. There was no interaction between Sergeant Crowley in that respect. He was simply doing what he's paid to do.
All right, one of the things, I thought that comment that we just played was very interesting to me, because there have been other minority officers. They know this man, Sergeant Crowley, and have defended him, and know he's actually been teaching some of the younger cops on the job about issues involving race and sensitivity, which I think is a great thing. We know he was instrumental in trying to revive Reggie Lewis, the former Celtic star. But the president then weighs in, and the president said he acted stupidly, even admitting he didn't have the facts. And when you're the president of the United States, that has a huge impact. Should he apologize?
Absolutely, and he should do it as publicly as he called the Cambridge Police Department and Sergeant Crowley stupid for doing it. Now, there's something else. I find it a little embarrassing for our nation, and a little embarrassing for me personally, that we hear the president come on press conference after press conference after press conference. I'm in 2 wars. I got to do health care. The economy's in the tank. And so he takes time out to be a camp counselor for something that he has no power. Yeah. He has no influence. He cannot influence the Cambridge Police Department one bit on this issue.
All right, we've gotten a few tapes. Now, this Professor Gates was, and this doesn't surprise me, you have a radical, you have Bill Ayers teaches, Ward Churchill teaches on a college campus, but this is on C-SPAN book notes. This is Professor Gates. Listen to what he had to say, and listen especially after he talks about Malcolm X, talking about the white man being the devil and how he laughs. Listen to this tape.
My mother hated white people.
All her life?
Probably. I didn't know until 1959. We were watching Mike Wallace's documentary called The Hate That Hate Produced. It's about the Nation of Islam. And I couldn't believe, I mean, Malcolm X was talking about the white man was the devil and standing up in white people's faces and telling them off. It was great. Her face was radiant. I mean, this smile, beatific smile, started to transform her face. And she said quite quietly, amen. And then she said, all right now. And she sat up and she said yes. She never trusted white people. She didn't like white people. She didn't want to live with white people.
Well, forget about his mother. He said Malcolm X was talking about how the white man was the devil and telling him off. It was great, and he laughs. What does that say about Professor Gates? Is he the one that racially profiled here?
I think, well, first, there's no racial profiling. That's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard anybody say in the instance.
Did he have a racial predisposition?
He couldn't have a racial predisposition unless somehow the radio gives him pictures of people before he gets there. He certainly didn't know anything. And I want to say something about police procedure. When Sergeant Crowley went up there, this is where most cops die. They go up to a house that they have an unknown call, or they don't know what the call is, but they have to respond. The suspect inside has cover and concealment. You can't see him, and bullets don't go through what he's hiding behind. He has the first opportunity. When you make contact, as Sergeant Crowley did, he needs to not only identify that that person is who he says he is, but there's nobody else in the house making him say that.
What about people that say, and I got a lot of calls to my radio show about this, people saying, well, Professor Gates was wrong, the president was wrong, but the officer was wrong because he didn't need to arrest him.
No, I disagree.
Tell me why.
Well, when Sergeant Crowley had the Harvard police when they arrived, and he turned away, he says, I'm leaving now. Now Professor Gates thinks that he won this, and he started pursuing Sergeant Crowley, yelling things, stating things and creating a disturbance that it was.
See, every cop agreed with you that was there, but some people say, well, you have the right to call a cop anything you want.
You don't have a right if you create a disturbance, if you can create an environment that would incite people to jump in, and then this is how riots start.
You see, I agree that once he was that uncooperative and that provocative and that disturbing, I think he was in the wrong and the police officer was in the right. I would like to see the president apologize publicly, and I'd like to see Professor Gates do it. I'm not holding my breath, but
I can't believe that Sergeant Crowley would even go to the White House unless he is guaranteed that both those men apologize to him and do it publicly, because there's absolutely no reason for him to go. He's 100% in the right. And if President Obama and Professor Gates don't get off of this, they're probably going to be the ones being sued.
All right, good to see you, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, John.